Today's episode is brought to you by SalesCred Pro, the strategic resource for B2B sales that fortifies your credibility and accelerates the trust building needed for building successful business relationships. Get your free 7-day trial now at salescred.com/pro. Welcome to the Manage Smarter podcast with hosts C. Lee Smith and Audrey Strong. We're glad you're here for discussions on new ways to manage smarter, hire, develop, and retain talent, improve results, and propel team performance to new heights. This is the Manage Smarter podcast.
We talk about getting results. We're all hyped up about the results we want for 2024. And our guest today is an authority in that, and also just fulfilled one of her number one results she wanted for her life. I'm not going to give it away just now, but that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just always about the results, but it's also the process in which you go through to get to the results. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that. And there's so many different areas that we could cover here. But really, it starts about, how you can be the best entrepreneur, the best leader, the best manager you can possibly be.
Absolutely. So welcome to Manage Smarter, everyone. We're so happy that you're here. My name is Audrey Strong. I'm the Senior Vice President of Communications here at Sales Fuel.
And I'm C. Lee Smith. I'm the CEO and founder of Sales Fuel.
And our rock star guest today is Dr. Jean Oursler, otherwise known as the Results Queen. Dr. Jean, the Results Queen, has a Ph.D. in business psychology. She is considered one of the country's top business consultants. She's a top-rated speaker and a world-class business performance coach, author of Give Up Goals and Results Are Yours. That's an interesting title. And as an entrepreneur herself, Dr. Jean, on a mission to help business owners get what they want from their business and get those goals made. Welcome, Dr. Jean, the Results Queen, fresh from Antarctica.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be here. And yes, I am fresh from Antarctica. It was a bucket list. I am now part of the 7 continent club. So I've been to all 7 continents. Yes. One of the reasons why I wanted to go. And now I got nothing. I'm done. Like I
stick a fork in you. You're done. Yeah.
Yay.
Well, Lee, I'll let you start things off. You kind of had an idea.
No, I'm really curious about this Antarctica thing.
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of wondering, did you have a lot of sunlight? Did you have a lack of sunlight? I mean, what was it like?
24 hours sunlight?
How was that different than, say, being in North America or Europe or Asia?
Oh, it was so, first of all, it's all ice and all snow and all white and penguins everywhere. Penguins, seals, whales, birds, albatrosses. Like, it was just so much wildlife, and it's cold. So I don't ski, I don't like the cold. So that's, it's cold. And it was 24/7 sunlight. It never got dark. Never, ever. Yeah. And there's icebergs everywhere icebergs. Yeah. So I did the polar plunge where you jump into Antarctica. Yeah. And what I tell people is that when you jump in, first of all, it's wicked super cold. So you just want to jump out.
Did you hear that, folks? It's cold.
It's cold. It's cold. And you go so when you look around you, because I went with my eyes open, and I did with my mouth open too. So I did taste it. It tastes like a margarita. Just want to let you know. It's not very salty, but salty enough. Yeah, kind of like that. And it goes from totally dark to blue-ish to literally white. So you have this white light that looks down on you, and you're swimming in ice cubes everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. So if you've never swam in ice cubes and you want to, just throw them into your bathtub and you can swim in ice cubes. That's what it's like. And put everything in dark with one little spotlight. And that's what it's like to jump into the Antarctic Ocean.
That's fantastic. And the roadmap that got you there is the success that you have with your business. So maybe you should tell us how you did that.
Well, so, I've been an entrepreneur for 24 years. I've tried lots of different types. I've been in lots of different businesses. I always believe that results are the most important thing that we can get. People talk a lot about goals, but our brains don't work on goals. They really work on results and outcomes. And the more as a leader, as entrepreneurs, we start lots of things because we have great ideas, but then eventually we have to manage people and we have to get results out of them. And the more that we can be outcome oriented and paint a picture for the people that we work with, the more likely they will be successful too. And if they're successful, you're successful. So that to me is one of the most important lessons as an entrepreneur that I've learned that helped me get to Antarctica. That and just sheer determination and perseverance, I think, helped also.
So you were an implementer of this entrepreneur operating system, and
Mhm.
there's basically it's a nice framework then for getting those results. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yes, I love EOS. So we have a sales coaching company called the Caveman Brain, and we implemented EOS into that company. And it worked so well that I decided to become an EOS implementer because I love EOS so much. As an entrepreneur, we start businesses, but we have never been trained as being business owners. We just kind of figure it out as we go along. And having these 6 key components of EOS, putting into your organization, and then following them with the accountability. So you have great vision. Everybody in your organization is aligned to that vision. Because think about it, like your CFO looks at one thing and your COO looks at something else and your chief marketing officer is doing, but you all want to be successful. Everyone has a little way of looking at it differently. So if you align everybody in your leadership team and then get everyone to have a metric and measurables, which most of us as entrepreneurs hate. But those measure what gets measured gets managed. What gets managed gets measured. So metrics and measurables, and then everybody in the organization knows where you're going. The profitability and performance is just off the charts. And I became an EOS implementer, and now all of our clients, and we have lots of new clients who are running on EOS too, and they're seeing the same results that we did. And it's just, I've been tickled to help everybody in the world be more successful.
Is there any one of the 6 components that trumps the other 5 that you should consider most essential? And without it, the whole system crumbles.
People. So
Okay.
the six ones are vision, people, data, processes, issues, and then traction, the everyday living of the EOS world. And what we find is wrong people, wrong seats, right? People,
Mhm.
I used to say this all the time, work would be great if it weren't for the people, right? We could just come in, do our jobs, get things done, move on. And I really think as entrepreneurs, we struggle so much with our people because we want to love them, and a lot of times they're family and they've been with us forever. But I was just speaking to of our client who has EOS, and I we're talking about somebody who's not in the right position, not the right person for her organization. She needs a lot of accountability, and this business owner is not good at holding people accountable. And the fact is that at the end of the day, I said to her, it's the employee who makes the decision if they stay or not. Like you got to set clear expectations, clear vision, clear outcomes, which most of us don't do a good job at. So if we did all of that, and if they decide not to do all of those things, right, we have to give them the support, coaching, then that's on them, not on us. But we take it such to heart, and then we keep, like people basically are throwing up in the bathroom. I have to let them go. I think that when God closes a door, he opens a window somewhere. So that's mine.
Yeah,
Mhm.
a lot of people might say that it's vision because vision comes first, but if you can have a great vision, but you don't have people to carry it out, yeah, what good is it? Right. So, and the
Yeah.
same thing with the other components that's on your wheel there. It's like, without the right people to carry them out and or better, the right people in the right places. Yeah. It's like, it's all about that. So business is all about people. And because of that, business is messy. So,
Yeah, it is. I think
yeah.
the other
So,
thing to Audrey's, what's like the second thing is core values. Most of
Oh,
us have very good core values. And so if we hire the wrong people because our core values aren't really great, then we don't have a really good organization that can move towards whatever vision we're hoping to achieve. And I will tell you that I worked with a company. They they didn't have, and I'm going to tell you this is terrible, but they didn't have vision more than 90 days. So every 90 days we would show up, we would do a new strategic plan, we do a new quarterly rocks, and in 4 years they grew to $100 million company. So like as long as you live 90 days and keep going and deal with the things that are in your organization that you need to deal with as a leader, as structure, as processes, you can be very successful. We just don't always sit down every 90 days and say, okay, what is it that the business needs?
hmm
you made reference to the caveman brain, which is something that you invented. And is that like the lizard brain? I mean, and just for those people who are uninitiated to it, or talk a little bit about that.
Oh, I love caveman brain. So yes, it's our lizard brain. I've heard it called gator brain. It is our amygdala, which is an
Yep.
a part of our brain that sits in the back of our head. It's our internal protection system, fight, flight, or freeze. The challenge is that a lot of us know about it, but we don't do anything about it in terms of being leaders in our organization or helping our people. And for example, again, because I just literally got off this call with this EOS client. She says to me, well, that person is doing blah, blah, blah. And I said to her, well, how do you know that? Did she tell you that? And she said, no, that's what I've decided. And I said, well, that's your caveman brain. So caveman brain, because their only job is to ensure that we don't die. And it's our internal protection system. So think fight, flight, or freeze. So it makes up all these stories because it doesn't have a lot to do nowadays. And when we were cave people, it only knows what it sees and what it hears. So when the bushes rustled, we'd hear the sound, we'd see the bushes move, we were like, like saber-tooth tiger, it would flood our body with chemicals and it would make us do something. But there's not a lot of saber-tooth tigers to kill us. Like there's not much that's going to kill us nowadays. So the brain has to do something. It's kind of constantly scanning, looking for danger. And it's looking to flood your body with chemicals to make sure that you will survive. So it makes up stories. And if we don't realize it makes up stories, then those things become truth. And then the truth is how we operate, and it doesn't make us great business owners and leaders when we do that.
How do you manage somebody like that really lives in that caveman brain and doesn't really use the rest of their brain?
Yeah, so I ask a lot of questions. I mean, that's the other thing is as business owners and entrepreneurs, we make a lot of assumptions. We feel like we have to answer everybody's question, like solve everybody's problem. And what I say to people is ask questions. If you don't need to be the smartest person in the room. This is something I invented called smart person syndrome. Smart person syndrome is when we were kids. Think about it. The person who raised their hand the fastest and answered the question correctly was the smartest person in the room. So we are been trained since kindergarten, answering the question as quickly as possibly can in the smartest, fastest way. But as business owners and as adults, we don't actually need to answer the question because no one's grading us. The reality is that the more questions that you ask and get the other person to come to the realization that you have already come to means that you have agreement with the other person, as opposed to I'm going to tell you what's going on because I want to be the smartest person in the room. So use that as a leadership skill.
And as I like to say, if you're the smartest person in a room, you're in the wrong room.
Right? Yeah. Well, but business owners are like that, right? Because we feel like we have to lead people and we got to help them out and give them the answer. No, let them help themselves.
Yeah, I want to learn something. It's like I want to learn something from somebody. And going back to grade school, right? It's like, the kid to answer the question wasn't the smartest person in the room, it was the teacher.
So I have a question though about lizard brain. I feel like I should raise my hand. Okay. She just called on me.
Audrey.
Okay, thank you. Wouldn't it be informative to know which lizard brain type you are as a leader? I was put in a situation, Lee knows this, where I had to go into lizard brain and I know what kind I am, but like that, you're right, that doesn't happen every day. How do you tell people what should they do to figure out which of the three types they are?
So I actually don't so it's interesting because lizard brain has different types, but caveman brain has one type and one type only. So, and as caveman, right? So it's a caveman thought. I have caveman braining. My caveman brain is in the way of because it makes up stories, right? So that's the challenge. Is it real? So I say this to my clients, is that a fact or is that an opinion? And is that a story that you've made up to help you or not? And for most people, they're like, oh, I'm caveman braining because I'm making this up. And I don't, a lot of times when we're caveman braining, which makes it a verb, we don't know how to get out of it. So, right, we don't know. The fact that we take a breath, and as leaders, we're constantly having to figure out stuff so that we can help grow our companies. So we're always sort of under this stress of being fabulous. But the reality is that caveman brain is really there just to protect you. That's all it's there to do. So there's no three types. I don't have to worry about that. You just got to think to yourself, is this a story or not? Am I getting in my own way or not? Caveman brain actually comes from 4 places. It comes from your culture, your parents, your childhood, and your life experiences. So I tell it this way.
Interesting.
Yeah. So do you,
Okay.
so if you were the kid, I was not this kid, but if you were the kid whose parents, you brought home your test and you got a 97 and your parents said, where's the other 3 points? We're constantly working for the other 3 points when the reality is 97 as an adult is probably pretty darn good. Right?
And I hope you have a good therapist because that's probably where you ended up. That's really,
Yeah.
and I can speak from experience on that.
Yeah, but we don't go to therapy around that.
Right.
We
Right.
don't. So,
No, we
like,
don't.
right. And I talk about this like culture. I come from Protestant culture. So Protestant work ethic, like idle hands, devil's mind. So the fact is that you have to constantly be working and something, if not, you're
Idle
thinking,
hands are the devil's workshop. That's where you were going.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So is
Yeah.
this thing about the sense of urgency killing your business, this quick to
Yes.
judge, quick to decide, quick to demonize,
Quick to get away from the mountain lion.
is that because when I read that, I was like, what is she talking about? Urgency killing your business.
Yeah.
This is the urgency you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
because we don't focus on the things that are important. We focus on the things that are urgent so that we can get them out of the way so that we have time to deal on the things that take a long time to deal with, but they don't ever happen.
What about artificial urgency? Things that people want to present as urgent that aren't really urgent, but they just want to get your attention because they want to be served first. So it's like they try to make it to be more urgent than it needs to be.
Oh yes, well, I have a whole process around that because is that about you or is that about me? And what are you trying to achieve by getting it to make me urgent, right? So, and is that something that could wait or not? So, I think to myself, is that hair on fire? What is it we need to, again, questions. I understand it's urgent to you. So there's always an acknowledgement and say like, how will that help us achieve the vision that we have for today in order for us to achieve the rocks that we're looking for in 90 days to achieve the outcome that we want in a year?
So when
And
you're
then the person looks at you like,
oh, nice face. In your consulting business, in helping clients make their list for their vision, then you help them triage out the urgency that is not urgently, as you said, the false
Artificial urgency.
like artificial
Yeah.
urgency, and you say, nope, take that off, take that off, take that off. And then they can focus on what they really should be focusing on, right?
yes, yes, that's exactly it. We had this conversation this morning with a client,
Mhm.
and because they're looking at, believe it or not, and I think it's so crazy, but to think about what the year results are going to be and what they want to achieve. And I kept saying to them, it's like, is that really what you want to focus on? Well, what if you focused on that, what outcome would you achieve because of that?
Mhm.
Let's go the other direction on that. Let's say that you are reporting to a CEO or you've got to report to a board of directors or whatever, and they have artificial urgency. How do you manage that?
Well, again, by questions, what are they looking to achieve? And I think really one of the questions that we don't ask the most. So I say this to leaders that we coach. The CEO says, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Again, something I've created, which is called non-action action words, or non-action phrases. Sound like a phrase that you've told me that I need to do something, but when I start to actually get down into it, I don't know what that means. So that when I'm reporting to a board of directors or the CEO and they say, well, we want to do X, Y, and Z, great. Always an acknowledgement, great. What does the outcome look like when we achieve that? Tell me what you see. Is there any way specifically that you'd like me to do to get there, or am I okay to do whatever I think is the right thing to do? So I'm always constantly asking a question because I'm working to figure out what the other person's vision is. I do the same thing to my employees in my organization, and I love when they start asking me questions if I haven't fully
Mhm.
communicated what I'm looking for. So
Because sometimes it's easier to work backwards.
we call that in my organization, we call that Z to A thinking.
Yeah.
So that you start at the end and you keep working back until you have all the steps and then you can plan forward. Because most people do A thinking, A, B,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Start with the end in mind.
start
Yes.
the end in mind, you'll be super, super successful.
Seems a lot easier that way, doesn't it? When you think about it. You're right,
It
Jean.
does,
Jeez.
but it takes the challenge is that it takes a little time and most of us aren't trained that way. So if we're not trained that way, we can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you deal with a lot of different leaders and managers who want to become leaders. And one of the things that, is really super important, top of the list, or near the top of the list, then for leaders to have is confidence. How do you work with a leader then, or emerging leader who doesn't quite have enough confidence in themselves and they're maybe not projecting that level of confidence that they need to other people?
So Lee, you know what I'm going to say? So I'm going to ask a question.
Of course.
Right? Because the question is that where is the lack of confidence coming from? What makes you not as confident as you are here? There are transferable skills all the time. So I'll say to the person, like, where were you a leader? Right? Well, you were a leader somewhere. And how did you feel? What did you think? And usually what comes down to, especially emerging leaders, is that they had the roadmap. They knew exactly what to do, and they felt confident because they knew how to do it. The challenge is, as business owners, as you probably know, is there's no roadmap to our job. A lot of times we're just making it up as we go along, which is one of the reasons why having the vision of the outcome that we want to achieve and the steps to get there is so important. That takes a little bit of time to go from from tactical to strategic. But if you can think about a time when you were confident, how'd you feel, what you know, then you can transfer that skill to your emerging leader, and then you can work on it. And a lot of the demystifying is that they think their CEO is so amazing. And I'm like, oh no, they wake up every morning and go, what the hell am I doing today? And how am I going to make that happen?
You work for them for a few months or whatever, that feeling will go away.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't have, as long as you're doing the right thing by the organization, you're going to be there. And I think the challenge is a lot of people don't want to get in trouble, right? They're, again, school, they're looking to get an A. What do I need to do to be succcessful? And as a leader,
don't want to be called into the principal's office.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, and as leaders, we if once we have a clear vision of what we want, we can really communicate it. But if we don't, then our employees are really at that mercy of, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And I don't believe any employee shows up to screw up. I think all employees show up to do the right job.
Assuming positive intent, which is something Lee mentors in heavily. So, well, your website is cavemanbrain.com, and you have consulting and all kinds of stuff. What do you want to tell people about it, and how would you like them to reach out to you?
Oh, I'm going to tell you that I say this on every podcast, and nobody's taking me up on it. So,
ooh, a challenge.
It's a challenge. So my email is jean@cavemanbrain.com, and I'm happy to answer any and all questions. Like my mission is to leave you better than I found you. So whether you work with me or not, I want to help you in any way, shape, or form. So if you have a challenge and you need some help, you can email me at jean@cavemanbrain.com. As I said, no one is taking me up on this. I'd love the first person. But other than that, they can go to cavemanbrain.com. Everything we talked about today is there. There's free resources. There's training classes. There's downloadable tools. You can get to EOS. It's all right there. You can even just throw up Dr. Jean, the Results Queen, in your Google or in your Firefox, and I'll show up that way too. And as I said, we're here to help people become better leaders and better salespeople, and to make organizations more successful.
Well, we wish you well. This has been great. I know we rescheduled it a few times, and so we finally got you, and it's been worth the wait.
Thank you.
Yes, because now we got penguins. We wouldn't have had penguins before. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It was great.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more great information at salesfuel.com.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.